Welcome to From Cookie Cutter to Creative Crafts. It's St. Patrick Day crafts. Let's take a look at some cookie cutter copycat crafts that I picked up online so we can see what we will not do. Instead, we will see how we can create some St. Patrick's Day crafts that is developmentally appropriate. Now, I started out here by trying to do a shamrock, and I'm using a nice big paper, and it's not so easy to get the perspective, but I persisted and get somewhat of a shamrock and able to fix it as cutting it. But the idea is that we're going to use this as a template. That's one of the crafts ideas that I use in my program. Now, the first, I did two of them, and the first activity we're going to do with this, like we're using it just as a regular background paper, and we'll do a process art activity on it, maybe a couple. So the first we're going to do is tissue paper, and there's two kinds of tissue paper. We have bleeding tissue paper. We're going to do it in green because that's the color for St. Patrick's Day. And if you use water and bleeding tissue paper and you paint with water on top of the tissue paper, then it bleeds onto it and you get the beautiful color. Of course, you can use other colors as well. I decided to use green. Then when you lift it off, you can see the color and fill up as much as you want. Then taking the non-bleeding tissue paper in shades of green, and I'm going to use some glue. My glue is not coming out, so I have to use a brush, which might work out anyway. And then you just paint the glue all over and have them put down the tissue paper pieces. Now, what you can do as well is you can paint on top of it, which solidifies it. There's a finished one. Next, we're going to use the second shamrock I cut out to do some printmaking. And I took a whole bunch of household items that I have, 3 different greens, and I'm printing and I'm stamping. Some of the things I'm using a brush to paint on top of. Some of them I'm just sticking right into the paint. Look how nice this bristle box looks. And that's the second shamrock. Now we're going to do a collage. We're going to do a green collage. All of the things we have, green pom-poms and felt and yarn and buttons and sequins and anything green and real glue, not a glue stick because it's heavy stuff you're using. So here is my grandson, the 4-year-old, doing a collage. As you heard directly from his mouth, he looked at those buttons and it made him think of a garden because there's a flower button there, and he decided to make a garden with these green pieces. There were a bunch of stem-looking pieces, cut up pipe cleaners, and he used all the different buttons. He used the big piece of pom-pom for a sun. He finished coloring in, and there's his collage. And then we have my other granddaughter doing a more typical standard 4-year-old green collage. So this activity is going to be a resist, but we're going to use green, and it's going to be a green on green resist. So we have a few different ways to do this. Here's my cardstock, and here are my few different oil pastels that we're going to use for this green on green resist. So we could use these green oil pastels. Okay, and now there's a few different types of green watercolors that we can use. So first you have something like this where you have many different shades of green. So it could look really pretty. They just have to color the whole, paint the whole thing using only greens. Now if you have something like this Crayola set, there's not as many greens. But if that's what you have, that's what you have. And then you do have the option of using these tube watercolors. Now, you could put them on any plastic, but I'll just use the back, the lid of this Crayola watercolor. And really what you could do with these is you could let them dry, and then you use them with water. It becomes something like this. But this is just another way of using, if you happen to have, which I have, gives me a chance to use all of these. And so you have all these different greens now, and you can use these. It's almost using them like in an acrylic way or a tempera way, and it's like, you know what, you have to use more water for it because you see it's much thicker. I think you see how it's eventually going to move away from the oil pastel because it is a resist, but you really should put it onto the tray and add more water to it. And this is just the way of adding more greens and different ways of doing a green on green resist. I had all this lovely green paint, so I said, you know what? Let me do another activity. I took one of the green oil pastels and made a scribble, and then used all of the different greens that I had to paint in. I enjoyed it, and I decided, why not give it to the children as well and see how they're going to do it. Of course, they can't do it like an adult, but it's still a green on green, and it's a nice abstract activity. Here it is, all finished. And then I gave it to my 4-year-old grandson to do. He made some scribbles, and he liked the idea, and he was coloring it in using all the greens. Now, even if he went over the lines, it didn't matter because it's a resist. Then I saw that rainbows with a pot of gold at the end is a St. Patrick's Day activity. So I gave my grandson paint. I asked him which colors he wanted for his rainbow. He told me all the colors he wanted, and we put it into these wells, and he made himself a rainbow. And then I asked him if he wanted to put some pots of gold at the end, and he did with some copper paint. If you're interested in finding more about how to move from cookie cutter copycat crafts to more creative arts, meet me at EduArt for Kids.